Good evening and thanks for joining us on today's edition of Prime News. My name is Fon Quinter, beaming live from Douala, the nation's economic capital. We begin today's edition of Prime News in the Adamawa region, where a man has reportedly lost his life after he set his house ablaze. The father of 7 was consumed by the flame he ignited with intention of setting ablaze his 3-year-old child after a heated conversation with his wife over the paternity of the said child. Get details right ahead. Tragedy struck Katie Kamrai, a neighborhood in Gaundari, Adamawa region of Cameroon. A man reportedly lost his life after setting his house ablaze. According to reports, 45-year-old Kombo Bubu, father of 7, after a heated debate with his wife regarding the paternity of their 3-year-old child, set his house on fire with intentions of burning the child. The 3-year-old child managed to escape the white flames that rather burned his father to death. Neighbors who were left in shock alerted elements of the firefighters brigade in the town of Gaundari.
Le centre de secours des sapeurs-pompiers alerté à 7h10.
The population alerted us at about 7:30 and we got to the scene. We met a house in flames at Kamrai quarters. One of the houses was inhabited and we began putting out the flames with the help of the population. After putting out the flames, we discovered one person dead. Unfortunately, he was the family head. Sources further revealed that the family had been embroiled in disputes for a while, often resorting to physical confrontations. Since Friday, he started creating disorder. We watched silently as he reacted. He slept without saying a word. Investigation has been opened by law enforcement officials to determine the reasons for his action. Meanwhile, the remains of Kombo Bubu has been laid to rest. Over in the southwest region, the Limbe Regional Hospital and residents of Unity Quarter Mile 1 Limbe have been reassured of a steady supply of potable water. The reassurance was made by officials of Rotary Club in Limbe as they intend setting up a portable borehole with the capacity of over 20,000 liters. Kuma Honore completes the story from Limbe.
Members of the Rotary Club International Limbe chapter have made public their intention to commence with a portable borehole water project in no distant time. The project was presented to the director of the Limbe Regional Hospital, Dr. Arine Kenyenti, and to the district governor of District 9156, who was on a walking visit to Limbe to oversee activities of the chapter. Presenting the project, the president of Limbe chapter, Mr. Akote Peter, said the water project, when completed, will enable the hospital to produce and store close to 20,000 liters of water. He added that the project equally envisages the provision of stand taps outside the hospital fence to provide potable water to the neighboring communities who are often faced with the problem of water shortage.
Telling you that he has Rotary Club Limbe at heart, because that's one of the vibrant clubs in the whole district, made up of 10 countries. And he has been there to support us, especially the water project we want to do. The district wants to give us up to the tune of $10,000, so it's not a small thing for the district to support us in that amount of money to help us execute this project.
On his part, the director of the Limbe Regional Hospital expressed gratitude to the Rotarians and said the 20,000-liter capacity will add up to the 15,000-liter borehole project currently under realization by some funders. He took the district governor and his entourage on a guided tour around the hospital units, from the ultra-modern scan unit to the newly constructed private wards. The district governor ended with a meeting with the Limbe chapter members, which saw the induction of Engineer Polycarp Chungong as a new member of the Limbe chapter.
I'm here to assess how the club is performing, which project they have already done, how they are doing about growing membership and supporting our Rotary Foundation.
District 9156 covers some 10 sub-Saharan African countries and is part of Rotary International with over 100 countries helping the world to combat dilapidating diseases such as poliomyelitis, river blindness, just to name but these few.
Several cholera-contaminated cases have been recorded in 6 regions of the country within a period of 1 month. Meanwhile, the coronavirus infection graph is gradually narrowing down as health experts continue to encourage the need for vigilance and more measures to prevent the outbreak of the pandemic. Details with Dolingande.
Cameroon is currently battling with a pandemic and an epidemic. Going against popular expectations that the number of COVID-19 infected cases were going to rise shortly after the just-ended African Cup of Nations, the reverse is true, as reports from health experts lately have been insinuating a narrowing margin on the national COVID-19 graph chart, with so much emphasis still being laid for individuals to be ever more vigilant.
So 2 years after the first case of COVID-19 in our country, we have faced 4 waves of the epidemics. After the 4 waves, we are experiencing a decrease of the epidemic curves. And what shows that is the decrease in the number of cases notified every week, the number of deceased persons, but also the less cases that we register at the point of entry of the country. But we have
Should corporal punishment be encouraged has always been on the lips of several Cameroonians considering recent happenings in the country. Today's Effect Center regional correspondent Colette Lung spoke with a Yaoundé-based pastor and parent on the phenomenon and ways to properly discipline a child. Her report.
Disciplining a child has always been a challenging aspect to every parent since it is characterized with sacrifice and vigilance. Most often, the cumbersome standards of living in Cameroon and Yaoundé inhabitants inclusive take parents away from home to fend for their families. As such, kids, due to peers' influence, inculcate reckless attitudes, one of which is theft. Regardless of these predicaments, how well should parents discipline their kids?
Corporal punishment can be meted on children because it is said, do not spare the rod and spoil the child, which means that flogging is okay. There are varied kinds of punishment to get a child disciplined and stay on track. But this particular one, which is physical, that has to do with flogging, is also very important to an extent. But when people take it to extreme, that's where there's a problem. The extreme part of discipline or corporal punishment is abuse. And no child is supposed to be abused. Where you flog this child to pulp until sometimes you have to end up taking them to the hospital. It's that bad. You get so beaten that you have wounds all over your body because your parents had to flog you so badly. How we can make this better is put rules and regulations.
The recent case in Fon Quinter in the west region of Cameroon, where the father beats to death his 10-year-old daughter because she stole 40,000 francs CFA. Would he have managed the situation differently? Is the response we sought to know from a pastor.
Discipline is an obligation because if you don't discipline a child, you cannot bring him well. And even the Bible says, don't spare rod to discipline your child. There are many ways to discipline a child. First, know the character, which punishment affects most your child. Because to one, beating may be a solution. To another one, it's just advice. The discipline will change according to the age of the child. There are someone you will just dialogue with him, advise him, not beating. Sometimes you discover that when you are beating, you can even harm the child with anger. That is why I can say there is beating and beating. You will not beat a child in the way you want to kill him. But we cannot spare the rod from disciplining children for some certain age because that is what they fear most, beating. So when they are growing, you need to change the way you discipline them. As a spiritual father also, I discovered that some stubbornness from children are influence of some evil spirit. And the best way to discipline that child is to pray for him.
Irrespective of how hard the situation turns out, parents are called upon to discipline their kids with love.
Samuel Ethiopi's president of FECAFOOD has been named Mullah Eyole, recognizing him as an ambassador of peace in a country plagued by the ongoing socio-political crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. The chiefs believe the title will facilitate the calls for peace and normalcy to return to the troubled regions of the country. He was named Mullah Eyole after the FECAFOOD executive meeting held in Limbe yesterday, February 17, 2022. Now, the Executive Committee of the Cameroon Football Federation held a session in Limbe yesterday chaired by President Samuel Ethiopius. Among several resolutions taken was a mandate given to the president of FECAFOOD to take a decision concerning the fate of the head coach of the Indomitable Lions, Antonio Conceição, within 72 hours. Kuma Honore with details in this report.
Top on the agenda of FECAFOOD's executive session was the adoption of a timetable for the 2021-2022 football season, the adoption of the rules of the Elite 1 and Elite 2 professional championship, adoption of a regular and supplementary budget, proposed modification of the organizational chart, proposed rehabilitation of FECAFOOD's vehicle fleet, indiscipline in the executive committee, among others. After visiting all the points on the agenda, the executive committee came out with the following resolutions: the recruitment of 6 staff to various positions of responsibility, as well as the confirmation of the interim Secretary General, Mr. Benjamin Banlock, as the Secretary General. The executive committee unanimously accepted to mandate the president of FECAFOOD, Mr. Samuel Ethiope, to proceed with the recruitment of 4 other executives within the federation. After modifying the regulations of the Elite 1 and Elite 2 professional championship, the executive committee unanimously adopted the said regulations for the 2021-2022 sports season. The executive committee went further to instruct the General Secretariat to prepare a summary note explaining the notifications made by the regulations of the championship at the beginning of each football season. The executive committee adopted the launching of the first school championship in Cameroon, a project of the Confederation of African Football for 2021-2022 season. The executive committee equally took note of the information given by the General Secretariat to set up an establishment in charge of the distribution and merchandising of FECAFOOD's activities and gadgets. In accordance with the provision of Articles 42 and 43 of FECAFOOD Statutes, a member of the Executive Committee, Mr. Gubai Gathama, delegate for the Far North Regional Football League, was temporarily suspended for indiscipline for a period of 3 months. The Executive Committee unanimously gave 72 hours deadline to the president of FECAFOOD to take decisions concerning the future of Antonio as head coach of the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon.
Just entering the studio, the president of FECAFOOD, Samuel Ethiope, has appointed General Pierre Semenge head of the Transitional Council of the Cameroon Professional Football League. The appointment of the 86-year-old retired Army General, who will be in charge of a 7-month delegation of the Transitional Council, comes a day after the FECAFOOD ordinary session held in Limbe yesterday. Now, the head coach of the Indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon, Gabriel Zuba, has published a list of 25 players ahead of the team's qualifier against the Scorpions of Gambia for the Total Energies African Women Cup of Nations to take place in Morocco this year. The match will be hosted by Cameroon at the Amadou Ahido Stadium in Yaoundé tomorrow, Friday, February 18, 2022. Eileen Sama completes the story.
The Indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon are now ready for the 3rd and final qualifying round for the Total Energies Women's African Cup of Sowe has named her final 23 women's squad to face the Indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon in the double-header African Women's Cup of Nations qualifier. Mariama Bomsowe and her team have also been training for past weeks, and she said focus was on the technical, physical, and mental aspect of the Scorpions. Nonetheless, the return leg is scheduled for Banjul, Gambia on February 23, 2022.
And to health, our report that focuses on sepsis, which affects close to 50 million people worldwide, with over 40% of those affected being children below ages 5. To this effect, this week has been set aside as World Sepsis Week in a bid to raise awareness regarding the severity of the disease. Bokenga Wadi with details in the following report.
Sepsis, also known as blood poisoning, is a life-threatening health condition that can be triggered by infections such as pneumonia, infected wound, urinary tract infections, which can spread throughout the body over time. One can get sepsis when bacteria born from the untreated infection spread or secrete toxic substances into the bloodstream, making the immune system to go into an overdrive, which can cause inflammation throughout the body. This chain of reaction interferes with the blood flow, leading to a drop in blood pressure as well as less oxygen to the body's major organs such as the lungs, kidneys, and heart. This can cause life-threatening health hazard over time and in some cases death within few hours. It should be borne in mind that sepsis, like any other life-threatening health condition, can be prevented through early diagnosis by means of watching out for some signs and symptoms such as fever, chills, breathing difficulties, vomiting, diarrhea, slurred speech, confusion, low blood pressure, elevated heart rate, and many more. Though sepsis can affect anyone, persons with a weakened immune system, long-term medical condition, skin damage such as cuts, blisters, and ulcers, as well as persons over the age of 50 are more vulnerable and susceptible.
Now, leaders of the European Union and African Union, as well as their respective member states, are currently taking part in the 6th EU-AU summit in Brussels. The summit will present a unique opportunity to lay foundations for a renewed and deeper EU partnership. Katrina Congo completes the story.
The European Union and African Union Summit begins in Brussels, capital of Belgium, under the theme Africa and Europe, two continents with a common vision until 2030. Prior to this event, several topics have been discussed, including the intellectual property of the COVID vaccine, armed conflict in Africa, and rising anti-French sentiment throughout the continent. It is on this note that the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Paul Biya, has been represented by Ferdinand Ngongo, Secretary of State at the Presidency of the Republic of Cameroon. Before the start of deliberations, a team of journalists covering the summit spoke to Nina William, Director of Studies at the Egmont Institute, about the situation of conflict in Africa.
I think that there are several different structural factors that are affecting the organized violence, whether it's state-based or non-state armed conflict on the African continent. Some of the structural factors that are affecting these are the demographics. We can see that there is a rapidly increasing demographic situation in Africa, more largely. We know that Africa will be the continent that's hosting more or less 2 billion of people in less than 50 years from now. We also have the environmental issues. The climate change is affecting Africa.
Questioning the Director of Studies at the Egmont Institute on European Union's role in ending the defending armed conflict in southern Cameroon, she says,
I think there has been a lot of discussion regarding the provision of lethal equipment, military equipment, with regards to the discussion relating to the European Peace Facility, which is a new mechanism by which the European Union can provide lethal equipment to different bilateral partner states, which is the case, which has not been the case previously. So there has been significant amounts of discussions and debates regarding these questions within the EU.
In a nutshell, the 6th EU-AU summit, which aims at strengthening and boosting the economic and strategic partnership between the European and African countries, has brought to attention